Guys, I have been loving this generosity series. I hope that you have. As I said, today we're talking about generosity in listening and in speaking. And we're all wired a little bit different in that, aren't we? Some of us are probably a little more wired to at least not talk as much. How many of you are a talk less kind of people? Raise your hands if you talk less. God bless you guys. Why did you bring them down? You don't even raise your hand very long. You're like, it's like part of your personality. How many of you talk more? Yeah, baby, there's my people. God bless you. Yeah, just turn to your neighbor and say, you're welcome. All right, so obviously those are preferences, those are wiring, and they're a gift. We all have natural proclivities, but we want to talk about how to be generous in both talking and listening, because how many of you guys know that in order to have true relationship and intimacy, you need both? If you're a good friend, you're going to need to be having a proper use of both of those things. Did you see me save that sentence? John 15, verse 15 says this, I don't call you servants anymore because a servant doesn't know what his master is doing. I've called you friends because I've made known to you everything I heard from my Father. Now, I love this scripture. Look at what John's saying. You're not just a servant where I just go, get me a sandwich. You're a friend where I say, hey, let's go make a sandwich together. There's a big difference, isn't it? But what's involved in that is that he's speaking to us, he's listening to us, and he's inviting us to listen to and speak to him as friends. This is what friends do. And it's the definition of a loving relationship. Philippians 2, 3-4 says this. This is the motivation that God is using with us. Listen to this. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. Look at this approach that God's bringing in showing us, right? We're shown in the scriptures how to be generous in listening and speaking when we're interacting with others. And I'm going to start with the listening part, okay? Because I want to say that listening is more than half of being generous in listening and speaking. So I think, you guys have heard, right, that we are built with 2 ears and 1 mouth, and that's supposed to be the ratio. All right. I think it's probably a good ratio. I think it takes more listening than speaking in order to have a good relationship, in order to have a good conversation. Would you guys agree? And so as we're looking at the scriptures and we're saying, okay, God, I want to be generous in my communication. I want to be generous in that. Then we have this admonition to do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but to consider others above ourselves in how we interact in our words and our listening. Has anybody ever sort of placed that scripture into that when we're talking about words and listening? I think it was kind of fresh for me, honestly, to look at it from that perspective, like, ooh, consider others better than myself while having a conversation. That's a big gift for me because I'm a big words per minute kind of guy. Has anybody noticed that about me? I like to talk. People don't even have to be there for me to do it. I was working on some numbers and running some scenarios for one of Karen and I's retirement investments, and so I'm running the adding machine, and my daughter's in the other room with my wife, lovingly mocking the bejeebers out of me because I'm in there like, okay, and then we're gonna, don't forget the percentage rate, and because that's how I think. I have to speak in order to do it. So I like talking. But what if I'm to consider others as more important than me in a conversation? Then for me, from my bent, the gift that I'm gonna have to be more generous with is to actively listen. Are you guys seeing that? And this is a beautiful motivation for us to say, okay, I want to seek to value what someone else is saying in my interaction because I want to serve them, because like Jesus, I'm here not to be served, but to serve. I'm going to consider this person that I'm talking to before I consider myself. So that's a good exercise for me. Proverbs 18:13 says this, one who gives an answer before he listens, this is foolishness and a disgrace for him. One who answers before he listens. What was that? I can't remember what it was. It was a Disney film where he goes, we're so close that we finish each other's, and he goes, sandwiches. How many of you guys have a friend like that, right? It's so fun. Yeah, they're just great. They're like in a big hurry to tell you what it was you're trying to tell them. They win at knowing what you think. Does anybody here enjoy it when people try to jump ahead of you when you're sharing? I mean, maybe honestly, actually, for science, is there anyone here that actually likes it when somebody guesses what you're trying to say before you're done speaking? Are you lying, or do you really like it? I like it. Okay. Is there anybody else? This is good. I don't want to be too much of a smart. Okay. All right. We got 2 people in here. So when you're ministering to Frank or Fiona, they actually like it. They like it. Do it. Everyone else in the room, turns out, does not enjoy that, including me, and I do it sometimes. I like to give that gift. I just don't want to receive it. So this is an invitation for us. Like, I mean, the truth is, right? I'm not browbeating you here, guys. I'm inviting us to be generous in listening and speaking. Are you guys, you're receiving the spirit of this, right? I hope I'm not being too, we're okay? All right. Maybe I just feel sensitive. Maybe I'm feeling super sensitive, like, oh, this is all to me. And so maybe there's some others that feel that way. Proverbs 20, verse 5 says, counsel in the heart of a man is like deep water, but a man of understanding will draw it out. This is a gift of listening that we get to give. This is a gift that we get to give. When I'm listening to someone else, so often, guys, what we're grappling with in our life is that we feel something. We're trying to work through something. And how many of you guys know what transference is, right? Transference is when something's bothering you, but for whatever reason, you either don't want to think about it or don't know that you should think about it. And so you get upset about something else or worried about something else. Does anybody ever have that going on? Like, you're having a hard time at work, and so your spouse is like so annoying with the way they eat chips. Right? You're just like, would you just close your mouth for once? Like, that's really all that's wrong in my life. Well, it's annoying, but it's probably not the thing that's bothering you. It's the thing at work. And so when you get with your spouse or a friend or what have you, and you begin to say, I'm telling you this is da-da-da, and they go, you seem upset. You seem upset. What's going on? They begin to ask good questions. They begin to draw out of you. A man of understanding will draw out of the deep water that's in you what's really going on. And if they're really giving you a gift, they won't tell you what's going on. They will draw it out of you so that you come to that conclusion with the beautiful partnership between the Holy Spirit, their own brain and soul, and you. And you get to share in that. There's a profound joy in helping someone get a revelation of something that they're grasping for, that God's been very often seeking to show them. And we get to share in that glory if we'll take the time to be generous in listening well. How many of you guys right now, just close your eyes for just 1 second. I want you to just close your eyes. I want you to think of somebody in your life that you're like, man, I love talking to that person. They're a good listener, aren't they? They're good at drawing you out. They're good at hearing you. And you can open your eyes and just thank Jesus for that person. We get to share in that. See, there's an interesting thing that those kinds of people in our lives do. They ask these humble and loving questions, and they're such a huge gift that they're giving to us. And I want to say to each of us, let us give that gift of serving someone else through hearing what they're saying, seeking to understand what's going on in their life, seeking to partner with what God might be doing while not putting ourselves in the place of God. While understanding I'm there with God. I'm co-laboring. God's doing something in your life and I'm excited about it. I don't know what it is. I have to listen to you and listen to him and just enjoy this moment as we're present together. And I begin to seek and ask questions, and suddenly you say, you know what? I just got something. I just realized something. And you're in the midst of that. You get to share in that. That's a gift that I can give to you through the gift of listening. Isn't that beautiful? And it feels amazing, doesn't it? Like, it feels amazing. And the person, you didn't tell them you didn't tell them the problem. We're solving a problem in this scenario. You didn't tell them what the answer to the problem was, but they will turn to you and say, thank you so much for doing this. That was so helpful. And they will seek you out again. It's so good. You know, there was, at one point, there was someone in my life, my little brother Seth, actually. And I had gone on a trip, and I had this serious misunderstanding with someone that I dearly love, who is a younger person in my life. And essentially what had happened was I was super upset with them. I love them dearly, but they'd really hurt my feelings. And so I was like, this is this and that is that, and rah, 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 and how dare they? And just felt, mad at them for what they did, because they did it completely wrong. And of course, I was me, so amazing. And so I was just sharing, and he goes, it's interesting. I mean, I understand why you're upset. You got hurt and you got your feelings hurt and whatever. He didn't say it like that. He said it so much better. I'm doing a terrible job of explaining this. What he did, though, was he drew me out and he said this: what is it that's really bothering you about the situation? And then he just kept asking questions. And essentially, he said, based on what you're telling me, it sounds to me like what happened is that you received a disrespect message from this person. And I was like, And the long and the short of it is, and the details don't matter, but I'll give you the long and the short of it, that this person, Seth, helped me understand, was he said, you have been seeking to continue to draw out this younger person that you've known since they were just a little squirt, it's one of my nephews, and treat them as a peer now that they're a man. And when they treated you back as a peer, you got your feelings hurt and felt disrespected because they were treating you like a peer, but they're a man now. So you want it both ways. You want to be able to call them up to be a peer and be like a big stud about it and everything. But then when they actually treat you peer to peer, you're like, hey, I'm your big awesome uncle. I tell the church all the time. And he's like, is that, so he didn't tell me that, but he drew me to that. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So I was able to go and fix it. And that was a major pain in my heart, right? Relational pain, guys. Let me share this with you. Relational pain is the most painful kind of pain that there is. Relational pain is what caused Christ to be crucified. So how we listen and how we speak are some of the most important things that we can do about the most important things that we do, which is maintain relationship and connection with other humans. Do you guys see that? So when we're going through these things, I just want you to know this matters because it is the most valuable space. Our connections with God and each other are the most important things in this life. That's what we're working on. And the way we serve that is in word and deed. And right now we're talking about word. We're talking about how we connect and how we make sure that these things work together. So he set me free from some serious relational pain by just listening and asking really good questions and then saying, have you considered this? It's a beautiful opportunity. And this was after a few months. I was grappling, but we got it all straightened out, so I didn't have to resign. Here I am, healthy pastor. Proverbs 27:9 says this: oil and incense bring joy to the heart, and the sweetness of a friend is better than self-counsel. Oh, I like this one. Oil and incense bring joy to the heart, and the sweetness of a friend is better than self-counsel. Self-counsel. We live in a culture of self-counsel. You don't even need to involve other people. You can just go find articles that support your own self-counsel. You're like, let me give you the footnotes of all the things I learned. I mean, it already matched what I wanted, and I only showed you the stuff that agreed with me. Yeah, no bueno. No bueno. A friend is better. The sweetness of a friend is better than self-counsel. We need each other. And you and I can give someone the sweetness of this gift, generosity in listening. I love this one, James 1:19. I'm using the context in listening from the place of already established friends and family. But here's another one. This scripture I love. 1:19, James 1:19 says, my dear brothers and sisters, understand this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. You and I can give the gift of good listening to our coworkers and our peers. This is a gift that we give in the places where we work, that we are quick to listen. How many of you are quick to speak? How many of us are quick to get offended. Oh, good, another awesome protocol coming down from the on-high bosses that live in Chicago. Woo-wee! So a gift that we can bring is, God, what is it that's going on right now? I can be quick to listen. I can be quick to engage with the people that I'm with. I can be quick. How many of you guys, are you picking up what I'm throwing down? Quick to listen? I love that. And I can give that gift to the people around me, to hear what others are saying, to hear what their heart is, to give them a gift of, I see you and I value you. And I hear what's going on, and I'm not quick to wrath. I'm not going to skip ahead. I think it's Janelle's gonna preach on good faith readings. I'm sure we'll come back to some James on that one. But you and I can bring this. I want you guys to recognize this. I'm gonna switch to speaking now, but I want you to recognize how valuable of a gift that this is to the atmosphere, the culture, and the individuals around us when we bring this. That it's a profoundly powerful thing that we do by bringing this as a gift to those around us. That we're not quick to air our opinions. We're quick to hear those that are near us. It's very simple, but it is one of the most profound things. Let me talk to you about generosity and speaking. Maybe you're on the other side of things. Maybe you are amazing at everything I just said, and here's an area where we might want to grow a little bit. Proverbs 25, 11 through 12. A word spoken at the right time is like gold apples in silver settings. A wise correction to a receptive ear is like a gold ring or an ornament of gold. A word spoken at the right time. Wow. Ephesians 4:29 says, no foul language should come from your mouth, but only what's good for building up someone in need so that it gives grace to those who hear. I love that. Think about this. Do you and I think about when we're speaking? Is it good for building up the person who's listening? That's quite a filter. Is what I'm saying helpful and good for the person who's hearing it? Or is it just something else? I love this filter. Am I aware that my words are to be only good? Am I seeking to serve those around me with my words, or am I mostly serving myself and my concerns? James 1:26, and this is an intense one. Those who consider themselves religious, right? And we are religious. Jesus said, true religion is this: care for the poor and the widows, the orphan, and keep yourself unspotted from this world. So we are allowed, guys, to be good religious, all right? So you are good religious. Just qualifying that. It's not a bad word. All right. That was an aside, but here it is. If you consider yourself religious, and we all do, and yet you do not keep a tight rein on their tongue, you deceive yourself, and your religion is worthless. Ha! This is a very needed admonition, encouragement, and rebuke for you all. This guy, oh my goodness. I just like to make jokes. I just love them so much. I was with Corey Jackson. You guys remember our dear friend Corey Jackson, president of CAFA, Christians as Family Advocates, and he's just an amazing guy. And we were joking around at the table. Well, I was joking around at the table, and everyone was laughing. I said, well, that's about the right ratio to awkward and laughter. And then Corey goes, yeah, that's kind of your sweet spot, isn't it, Josh? Hey, ow. Come on now. See, this is a really important part for us to grab a hold of, guys, that we are either helping the people around us or we're hurting the people around us when it comes to our words. Which thing do we want to do? Which thing do we want to do? It's just, let's just grab that. Let's just let it be what it is. But for those of us that have been making excuses about what we say, just remember that our words can condemn us, and our words can work against what Jesus is trying to do in our communities, in our neighbors, and in our own lives. Is it worth it? Is that joke worth it? Is that sarcastic comment worth it? Is that F-bomb that people can read your lips when you're driving, even though they can't hear it, is it worth it? Sorry, I was just remembering another story. Oh, thank you, Jesus. Okay, so again, let's remember how valuable this gift is that we can give by going in the opposite spirit of giving something that is good and helpful that it's gracious. Proverbs 16:24 says, gracious words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. I love this, guys. Life is super challenging. Did you notice that? Life is super challenging, and we all need encouragement. We need to know that our contribution counts, right? If you guys, has anybody here noticed that life's pretty hard? People die of cancer. People are mean sometimes. There is injustice. Things are way more complicated than what we got taught in kindergarten, it turns out. Right? This is challenging. And then you and I are seeking to help other people to come into the gospel of the king, or come into the kingdom and share the God. Like, this is hard. And then people that don't even have God, it's even harder for them. And so here's the thing that I want you to catch. You and I have the power to use our words to bring something sweet to the soul of those who need it. That's healing to the bones of those who are crushed and fractured in this life. And you and I can literally do that in the smallest of ways by using this. What did Carly call it? Our mouth hole talker. Your mouth hole talker. That's a blessing. Now, some of you might be thinking, does it matter? Like, right? So some of us, we kind of figure like, well, yeah, I mean, I could say that thing, but probably somebody else already said it. What does it really matter? I'm just going to be repeating what someone else said, or they already know it. Well, let me speak to that objection that might come up in your heart. And it's simply this. You know what? Say it again. It's not going to hurt. It's not going to hurt if somebody hears something that they already have heard about themselves. Did you know that usually it takes people about 20 times to believe something anyway? Like, we hear one bad thing, it takes like 20 things in the positive to get us to erase that bad thing. It's not going to hurt to say nice things, to say good things, to say true things. Just go ahead and say it. It will be a blessing. Another thing that could be maybe a challenge for those of us that aren't as yappy as Joshua Rivas. You might think, well, I'm not real swift with the words, okay? Well, you know what? I'll tell you something. Written words are powerful. You might not be awesome at that. That's okay. I mean, I encourage you that even a poorly spoken kind word is better than nothing. But it is profound to get a beautiful text from somebody that just shares that encouragement. Hey, it was so great to see you the other day. I can't tell you how much I appreciated the input you gave me, or whatever it is. It's not about being profound. It's about being encouraging. It's about speaking the truth in love. Send a letter. Rent a plane and write it in the sky. Comment on someone's socials. That's a huge deal. Just a comment. Man, I love what you said. That was a really encouraging way that you said that. Brian does. He's more involved in the socials than I am. But you give some really great comments to people that you disagree with. And we had you up to interview about that, but I was just reading one recently. And that's a brilliant way to do that, is to come in and be a peacemaker and speak goodness. Be generous in your words. I love this one right here. I did want to say this, by the way, that one of the things that an encouraging word does is it's simply stating what you have as, no. Okay. An encouraging word is simply stating what you have observed as a positive thing about a person, what they did and what they said. You're a witness that their life and contribution matters. That's what you're doing. When you and I speak words of life, we're simply being a witness that someone's life and their contribution matters. They're hearing from Satan every day the exact opposite. And you and I have the power to release life through these small observations. Hey, I was walking by the other day and I saw you out in the parking lot. This is to a coworker. And I saw you pick up trash, and I realized that is not the first time I've seen you do that. And I just want to let you know how much it blesses me to see that you care about your environment. You made my day. Thank you. And that person's like, are you kidding me? Whether you're a coworker or the boss, those little things, I'm a witness that your life matters. So good. So good. One more, Proverbs 12:25, and Zach, why don't you come on up here, bud? Anxiety weighs down on the heart, but a kind word cheers it up. Mark Twain is known for saying, and I quote, "I can live for 2 months on a good compliment." Right? How many of you guys, it's just somebody just tells you something that's right there, and it just changes you. Proverbs 27, better an open reprimand than concealed love. The wounds of a friend are trustworthy, but the kisses of an enemy are excessive. I had this fellow pastor, Pastor Julie, and she was a pastor that served at City First in Eugene. And I would see her at One Hope meetings, and man, Julie is a rock star, right? She's awesome. I love her, and I respect her so much as a leader. She was their executive pastor for several years. And whenever I would introduce her, then I'd be like, this is Julie, and she's a rock star. I love her, and you need to know her. And she's like, hello, I'm Julie, and she's not as wordy as me, but she was always like, yes, Joshua likes me, or what have you. And she was very sweet, and I thought I was blessing her. And after probably like 3 years of this, at one point, I grabbed her, we were praying together in the meeting, and I said, Julie, I want to tell you specifically some things as to why I think you're such a rock star. And I just listed like 4 things. And she said, Joshua, I want to thank you so much for doing that, because I know you love me and you're always introducing me and you always say I'm a rock star. But to tell you the truth, until you were specific about what it is that you're talking about, it really just became like flattery to me, and I don't really like flattery, and it just really meant nothing to me. And I'm like, dude. I decided to put that in something I admire about Julie's column. Anyway, but I was embarrassed. I was also, though, so glad that it happened, because my heart was to bless Julie. And it turned out that what I was saying had become an empty cliche that was more like the kisses of an enemy, which are excessive, or in another translation, flattery, instead of the gift that I was trying to give. And I learned something that day, and I want to give it to all of you other people that are like me, love to encourage people, but your phraseology has actually become a cliche, and it means nothing to them now. And so I want to encourage those of us that are quick to encourage people that we can give that gift by being specific and picking something different each time if you really want to reach people's hearts. Because there comes a certain point where your cliche, even if it's true, is now white noise. And that was a gift to me, and I give you that gift. You might not be blessing people as much as you think if you don't choose to be specific. You could be more generous. Your heart's already in the right place. Let your words match that. So that's for free, and it hurt me. So I'm going to turn it into something good. Zach, you are amazing at this, and you've been somebody, by the way, this is my nephew, not the one that disrespected me.
I would never.
No. But he is my nephew, and man, actually, I do have to tell you one thing real quick here. I don't have time for it, but I'm doing it anyways. When Zachy was like this big, back before I had kids, Karen and I were such awesome parents. And we were always kind of hardcore, like we loved our nieces and nephews and stuff. We didn't have very many of them yet, but we knew everything about kids, and I was a little hardcore. And Zach comes in, and he was being a knucklehead. I mean, he was little, so not like now. And he was like being a kid, but he was being a knucklehead. And I was like, Zachary, stop that. And he's like, keeps doing it. I'm like, Zach, knock it off. And he looks up at me and he goes, well, he did this. He goes, and I was like, and that was it. He broke me down, and I have been a softie ever since, like something shifted. So anyway, Zach did that to me when he was a little squirt. But now that he's an adult, I count Zach not only as my nephew, but as a dear friend. And he has been someone that I have gone to in different times and situations that's been a huge gift of somebody who does listen and speak really well. So I thought, man, I'm going to interview Zach for this one. So here we go. Now you know a little bit about my nephew, Zachary. And so here we go. Zach, you are someone who is sought out for counsel and comfort. So, in this, like, you're great at listening and you're good at speaking. I feel like your ratios are probably a little better than mine. But what I want to know is what motivates you when you're doing that?
Well, I guess for me, it's just kind of like, I really love to love people, the people around me. It's one of my favorite things to do. And one thing that I've really been trying to say it more is like, life's way too short to not tell your friends that you love them. It's one of I really do my best to try and tell all my friends and whoever basically I feel like that I love, that I tell them I love them. I try to not be shy in telling people that I love them. So I think that ultimately it's just I love to love people.
And listening is one of the ways you do that.
And listening is exactly listening and
Right.
is one of the ways I do it.
So let me ask you this too. What's your guiding philosophy like? I mean, I just shared that you've been someone who has brought some hard insights into my life, and I have received it. I didn't enjoy it at the moment, but I loved it, and I come for that. So you're good at that. So what is your guiding philosophy for giving advice after in that listening? But how do you do that? Because I know you're not quick to do it, but you do it. So what guides you in?
Yeah, I mean, one of the honestly really basic things that I do is genuinely just ask them if they want advice in this scenario. Sometimes I know that people sometimes just want to vent or they just want to talk about it. And so if I think of something that I'm like, okay, maybe I should tell them this, I'll literally just ask them. I'll be like, are you seeking advice or do you just want to vent? Do you just want to talk about this? Like, because I can do either.
That is good. So ask permission?
Yeah, basically.
That doesn't sound right. Let's vote on that. Does anyone here? Well, I think something that I do appreciate about you, which I just shared, was how you have brought some challenging input into my life. So when that's happened, how do you do it in a way that makes it as valuable as it is to me? Or has been to me. I mean,
Right.
That was a weird way to ask that question. I'm saying it was valuable, but how do you do that? Because it's not always helpful when somebody just brings
how do I
something.
kind of judge like when's a good time kind of?
Yeah.
So basically what I kind of do is I take into account like a lot of different variables, like, what's my social equity with this person? How much equity do I have with this person? How long have I known them? What's the complexity of the situation? And I kind of take all that into account. And then if I decide that it's a good time to bring, bring advice, then I'll send it,
So you're checking to see what kind of relational equity you have. So, okay. So you're getting ready to do that. So what's going on in you when you know you're about to write a big check with somebody?
Yeah, I mean, the way I kind of look at it is like life's full of risks, and you can't live a good life without taking risks. And that's something I've actually been learning a lot lately in life. I think it's a risk to go out of your way and give someone advice and basically spend that equity that you have with this person. But it's worth it to take risks for the people that you love.
Like
That's
that.
the way I look at it.
It's worth it to take risks for the people that you love. I like that. I like too ask permission. I think that's so when people are venting, and you understand that, and you're listening and asking different questions. Do you find that if you do that well, those vent sessions might end up like where they do end up wanting input?
Yeah, absolutely. Like sometimes I'll even catch myself. I'm not perfect at this, so sometimes I'll start giving advice. I'm like, wait a minute, like, do you actually even want advice? Like, and then sometimes they'll say no, and that's okay. And like, and then after some time of listening and maybe asking questions, drawing them out, and, as you were talking about earlier, sometimes maybe they will like, well, you know what was that advice that you had for me? And then I'll give it to them, and whether or not it works, I don't know, but I do it.
So as you're listening, and can we start handing out that assessment and some pens? As you're listening, I mean, you sound like you're amazing at that, because I know for me, I'm not that great. So what have you done inside to reach this, like, Zen listening ninja skill set?
I guess a lot of practice. I definitely have not always been good at this. It definitely has taken work and like learning and making mistakes but also just taking those risks and putting myself out there and giving advice to sometimes deaf ears and being like, oh, well, that didn't work, you know?
Well, and you had said too, I mean, I was kind of slow pitching there, that you haven't actually reached a Zen listening inner perfect at this. In every moment.
Yeah. No, I'm perfect. No, absolutely not. I'm not there.
So how do you stay engaged when you're listening?
Well, ultimately, like, it's hard to listen sometimes. Like, sometimes I'm a pretty high energy person, and so I'll be bouncing all over the place, like, and then suddenly I'll be like, oh, I stopped listening. And sometimes, like, I'll lose, a little bit of it, and I'll be like, hey, I'm sorry, like, I kind of spaced out there. Can you repeat the last 10 seconds of what you were saying? Like, I'll just be honest in it. Like,
okay, so it's not a matter of being amazing at this. It's that you just keep coming back.
Yeah, I'll be like bouncing all over and I'll come back. If I missed a big chunk, I'll ask them to repeat, and otherwise I'll just come back as fast as I can and try to listen.
Well, thank you, man, so much for sharing.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to get that part because for those of us that are, still novices at the listening piece, I didn't want it to seem like you're just born that way. Well, thank you so much, Zach Seaborn. And anyway, and just a quick, totally related, give him a hand. All right, well, you guys have the assessment. I just want to give you a minute to just take a look at this and check in. Where are you in this place?